Do you ever have weeks where you are incredibly inspired to do things? Or just weeks when you are not inspired to make anything at all? Well, this week was surprisingly both of those weeks at the same time, and I am going to show you a couple of projects that I did in order to get through this week. Now, these will not be patterns, these will not be tutorials. I do not make patterns, I do not use patterns. Patterns are the bane of my artistic, silly little brain. But I will be walking you through a couple of the projects that I made and the steps of how I created those. So, without further ado, let's go. Good morning, everyone! So, this is where most of the magic happens. And by magic, I mean either waking up far too early or staying up far too late, coming up with a new crochet project. But I have a crochet/knitting idea in mind, and it is a mesh sweater with this crazy yarn. Now, this is not a yarn that I would usually buy for myself. My girlfriend at the time gave it to me as a present when we did crochet night together, and I haven't been able to find a use for it because it's just so bright. It's very assertive. But I think that making like a fun summer mesh top sort of thing might be a good use of this yarn. So I'm going to do a ribbed knitted collar, and like all of the cuffs and stuff are gonna be knitted. And then for the mesh part, I am going to do crochet because I feel like that's just the easiest way to do things. Now I'm going to stay in bed for far too long and probably run late for work, but I will let you know when the collar is done. See you in a bit! I think I'm going crazy and I don't know what to do. So I made my mind to sit right here and keep on loving you. So I am currently in a park and the wind is whipping, but I've got this really nice view of the lake and it was lovely weather, so I wanted to like come out and see how much I could get done. So I'm gonna sit here and make stuff and enjoy the wind and hope that the wind does not mess with this audio too. I think I'm going crazy and I'm feeling so alone. I'll just wait till I get back if you pick up the phone. So the actual stitch that I did for this sweater is something that I believe is called a mesh stitch, and it's very simple. You just chain as many stitches as you would like and then slip stitch into the previous loop, and what that does is it creates a nice diamond shape, which is where the mesh comes from. And the general construction of this sweater is pretty simple. I started with a collar that was done in the round, and then I took the number of stitches that were in the collar, divided that by 4, and made an increase at that number of stitches. Now that's a really complicated way of saying that I made a square shape out of this, folded that square shape in half to create the torso and arm. Now I've used this type of pattern before to make this blue shirt right here, and it turned out very well. I like it quite a bit. This project would probably take a bit longer because it is a finer yarn and more stitches, but I love it. It turned out very well. This is a massive jar of scrap yarn. Now usually this jar of scrap yarn would go untouched in my yarn stash for years, decades, millennia even, but today I want to change that. I want to make a scrap yarn beanie. I think that beanies are great stash busting projects. You can just whip one up super quickly. It only requires like a half a skein of yarn, maybe. And they're super cute, super fun. They make great gifts, or you can just keep a ridiculously large collection of beanies, though I don't know why anyone would ever do that. This scrap yarn beanie is actually a favorite pattern of mine. Basically, you just do single and half double crochets up and down, working into the back stitch, and when you want to switch yarn colors, you just take your yarn and you do your yarn switch of choice. I like to just thread it through like so, and work the tails in as I go. I find it the simplest for me, and how I do that is I just start my stitch, then when I hook the yarn around, I make sure to catch the tail in there and pull through like a regular stitch. And then I can just cut the tail off and I don't have to worry about it later, and it is so nice, I promise you guys. And then to finish it off, you just cinch up at the top. It is super simple, and I have actually used this pattern to make a hat in the past, and I love this hat to pieces. It is a little bit large on me, but it is a wonderful oversized slouchy beanie. 10 out of 10, would recommend. So the week continued, and it seemed like productivity was at its peak. But this was the moment that I crashed and realized I would not be able to finish any of these projects. I was already past my scheduled 2 weeks for usual video posting, and I was preparing a trip abroad, and it was just not getting done. But I did finish one project, and that is this little scarf ascot thing, and the construction is fairly simple. It is just knit stitches, increasing on one side and decreasing on the other so that it mixes zigzag, and single crochet around the edge to clean it up. And the last project that I was working on this week was just a towel. It's a square, it's not that difficult, but it is meant to go with this crochet project that I did the week before. I am doing far too many projects. But the construction of this is a circle with loops into the front stitch, and the circle is being made in the back stitch with just a little back and forth crochet to finish it off. I hope this has inspired you for your crochet weeks ahead, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye now!